So then, the first batch of Bahrain testing is done. The first batch of proper testing, because Barcelona was supposedly just a shakedown. Let's have a talk about some of the stories that have come out from the first two Bahrain pre-season tests. Firstly, one of the things that's emerged is the idea of a new pace setter, or rather, a new technique that is helping somebody become an early pace setter. Toto Wolff has been saying that Max Verstappen is going to be the person to beat, and Red Bull are going to be the team to beat. The new Red Bull powertrain working well with Verstappen's aggressive style of braking. What they've noticed, and I've seen this from multiple different corners of the internet, is that Verstappen is double downshifting, and then lifting, then double downshifting again. Something that he and Sir Lewis Hamilton have been claiming is a lot more like Formula E style driving. For someone like myself, I'm a fan of Formula E, so I'm looking forward to it. But for somebody like Verstappen, who I would assume if you could bolt a V12 in like Vettel wanted to do back in 2017 or 2018, whenever it was that the Ferrari blew up at Sochi, I would assume that he'd be happy with that. It's one of those weird ones where just because he's good at it doesn't mean that he necessarily likes it. And I think that it looks like Red Bull have managed to work out how all of this should work through the new Red Bull Powertrains project. Because when it comes to how to do this kind of regen, part of it is going to be with the MG UK, part of it is going to be doing the power unit, part of it will be the gearbox, especially because we know they're using first gear a bit more now. So where first gear has usually not been a driving gear in F1, the idea that it could be a driving gear means the gear ratios change a little bit as well. But one thing that is interesting is Brembo. Brembo supplied brakes for, I believe, all 11 teams on the grid. And as a result, they've got 11 unique designs. Some of them have got more braking power at the rear, some of them have got more towards regen. We don't really know which team's done what yet, and we probably will only find out when one of them ends up on the back of a tow truck or hoisted up on a crane near a journalist and their wheels come off. That's probably the only time they will really be able to deduce who has really done what in terms of braking systems. But it does open up an interesting possibility, because Toto Wolff reckons that Red Bull powertrains are better down the straight to the tune of a second lap around Bahrain. Now, if Mercedes is still one of the favourites, they're making that up in the rest of the lap. But it'd be also interesting to see if this is just a political ploy to stop the competition ratio debate from going any further. Secondly, it looks like the team that is on the back foot is Silverstone based, but not the one that people thought. Lots of people thought with Cadillac being an all-new team, they were going to be struggling. And if they were going to, we'd cut them some slack. But it does appear right now that Aston Martin and the new Honda Power Unit are the ones that are struggling the most. Low down on the running order, and often low down in terms of the lap times. Now, what is the issue? It's not entirely clear. Don't really want to do a McLaren and say, well, the chassis is good, but it's Honda's fault, because we found out when it got to 2018, they switched to the Renaults. It wasn't really just that. But there is something going on there. I know Alonso's already been hedging his bets by saying, we'll look to the second half of the season. But I'd be interested to see what it is. I'd be interested to see if Newey deciding to be team principal and trying to do some of the design stuff has had an impact. I'd be interested to see if it is power unit, or if it's car design, or if it's more likely a little bit of both. But Williams got out there, and I think they pretty much topped the running order in terms of laps done over the 3 days. I know for one or two of the individual days, for the first 2 days, I think they were the top on each of those. But I know Hamilton and also Mercedes, separate to Hamilton, despite various issues for Antonelli, have been up towards the pointy end of that as well. And I'm not going to try and get hopes up for the Tifosi, but if you are a Ferrari fan, you might seem a bit relieved by a lot of the running. I know Lewis stopped towards the end of the day today, and I know that that wasn't expected and it brought out a red flag. But at the same time, the Ferrari power unit has been pretty dependable, given that when you look at the teams that are running Ferraris on the grid, you've got the brand new team in Cadillac, and you've got Haas, who have perennially been one of the teams that have been making a shoestring budget work, and then you've got Ferrari themselves. You'd be right to expect that there'd be some kind of issue with integration or with deployment, and potentially a couple of packaging and reliability. You could argue that we've seen it with the other power units that are being supplied to different teams, such as with the Mercedes. Maybe that's part of the problem with the Alpine, because they signed the Merc deal quite late doors in theory. Or you could say the same thing for, say, VCARB when it comes to the Red Bull powertrain, because it appears that the deployment of it hasn't worked in the same way as it has for the main Red Bull team. But if you are a Ferrari fan, that engine looks quite consistent, and I doubt that it's behind Mercedes when Mercedes puts it a second behind the Red Bull. I don't know. But regardless, folks, as always, thanks for watching, thanks for joining, thanks for your continued support, and I hope to see you soon when we get ready for the final batch of pre-season testing, and then look back at it when all is said and done. Till then, bye for now.